Hi everyone, I would like to welcome to our weekly call. Today's topic is going to be discussing hormones, which I know that all of us have, but do we understand them? That's something to reckon with. So I'm excited for this topic because I myself, who is 57 years old, have gone through the cycle and since 2016, and I'm in menopause. So I would love to learn more, and we've got three experts here with us today that are going to share some insightful information about hormones. And I'm going to pass this call over right now to Joanne, who will start with an overview of the hormonal system. Joanne, take it away.
Awesome, Cheryl. Thank you so much. Yeah, this is pretty much, I think, a passion topic for a lot of us. Certainly it's one for me. Balanced and healthy hormones. Surprise, surprise, both men and women have hormones. You know, when we talk about hormones, we often talk about it as a female thing, but you know what? Men have hormones too. And kids have hormones. We have them as soon as we're born, and we have them till we die. So we need to dispel this kind of fake idea that it's, you know, hormones are only for women and a women's issue. So shedding some light around this topic, I've done different talks on this, and we just really wanted to highlight this today in terms of you know, just educating a little bit about what the hormonal system is and why it's so important to pay attention to it and not dismiss it. So what I really wanted to highlight first and foremost is that it's an aspect of total health. You know, it's not a thing on its own. Just like everything, we're holistic beings. Everything functions in concert with everything else. So we can't treat it as a separate thing to be compartmentalized. It's dependent on our overall health as individuals. So we have our components of physical, mental, emotional, social, and spiritual health, which combines to create holistic health. And when it comes to the hormonal system, yes, there's some very specific, and of course we have our male and female model here. There are specific hormones and glands to men and women, but as you can see, more of them are the same than are different. Surprise, surprise. So I just want to quickly run through briefly the whole hormonal or endocrine system. So we have the pituitary gland in the brain, along with the pineal gland and the hypothalamus. And I think of the pituitary gland as like the conductor. He's the conductor. It's the conductor of the orchestra. And the hypothalamus is like the composer, if you want to use a symphony analogy, which has been used by other professionals, and I quite like that. And then we go down and we have the thyroid gland, which is in the throat, and that impacts our whole metabolism. Everybody has a thyroid gland, and hopefully that's in good health. And we have parathyroid glands, which also have regulating capacity in terms of calcium uptake in the blood, and that sits around the thyroid gland itself. Then in the chest area here, we have the thymus gland, and that's super important for, we have T helper cells that are produced and regulated from this gland. So very important for our immune function, which of course is very topical right now. And we've done a lot of talking about the immune system and keeping that strong and keeping our body resistant and resilient. And then we have the adrenal glands, and we've talked a lot about the adrenal glands in our past calls, and we'll be touching on that again today with regards to stress and how even in the location of them in the body, they're like the, you know, fulcrum point on a teeter-totter. They really help keep a lot of things in balance. And stress is a huge component of overall health, or the lack of, or managing better of stress. Then we have the pancreas, which actually has a hormone, but it's also an endocrine and an exocrine gland, which means it has insulin, which is a hormone, but it also produces enzymes. And all these things are involved in helping to regulate blood sugar. And then of course, for women, we have the ovaries, and the uterus. And in men, we have the testicles. So that's just a really fast overview of the hormonal system. And one piece that I want to sort of highlight that isn't actually part of the hormonal system, it's actually a regulator of how hormones are put together and taken apart. So how they're broken down and synthesized is our liver. And we've talked in the past a little bit about the liver as well. But if your liver isn't in really good shape and can do all the jobs that it's meant to do properly, then it's probably going to have difficulty breaking down those excess hormones and resynthesizing the base components back in to those healthy hormones that we need. So when we talk about hormone balance, we really want to pay attention to our liver. It's super important, which is one of the reasons why we talk about cleansing and detoxifying the entire body, and including the liver and the gastrointestinal tract, and making sure that that system gets a lot of love and a lot of care and a lot of good attention. So I just also wanted to, in terms of the symphony of the hormonal system, again, everything works together. Everything has a communication system, and what we call it is a biofeedback loop. So all our hormones work in a cascade on a positive or a negative biofeedback loop, which means we have things that turn them on and things that turn them off. But there's a couple of key, what they call axes, that are always in operation and really doing a lot of very intricate checking back and forth with each other. And the first one is the hypothalamus pituitary adrenal axis. And you can see from the diagram here that the hypothalamus is like the timekeeper of the body, and the pituitary, it has a lot to do with overview of sexual production, and then the adrenal glands are the stress meter of the body. So those three are often in concert together, and it's a very important axis that if you've ever had any in-depth hormonal work done, that might be one that's looked at in terms of function. So you can see again that the adrenals, as the stress meter, are very involved in this axis, so one to keep in mind. And then the second one is the ovarian adrenal thyroid axis. And this one I really like in terms of paying attention to, because the adrenal glands and the thyroid oftentimes have, if you look at symptoms for underactive adrenals or underactive thyroid, a lot of those symptoms can be very similar and some overlap, which just really emphasizes the message that the adrenals and the thyroid really work in partnership. And it's important to nourish both in possible cases of underactivity. But again, you can see here that the adrenal glands are very much a part of this axis, and adrenal glands are involved with stress. So I know I'm going to pass this over to Jen shortly, and she's going to talk a little bit about those and the stress meters. One thing I also wanted to touch on, which I know we all love to talk about as well, is how our energy systems and our energy centers have a very significant impact. This is called the chakra system in Eastern medicine, well known in yoga. We talk about the chakra system, and it's the energy system that goes down the center of our body, on our spine actually. And all these energy centers actually incorporate our glandular system. So when we are talking about flow of energy, and this is very prevalent in traditional Chinese medicine, when we talk about qi and flow of energy and keeping things unblocked, that's also very important for the health and the well-functioning of our hormonal system. So we're not going to go into those things in depth today, because that's a whole couple-hour workshop that we could get way more into depth on all of these. But we just want to give you an overview that when you're doing exercises like Qigong or Tai Chi, or you're doing yoga, really keep in mind that you are addressing your energy centers, and then you are addressing your hormonal system. So it all works together, and it's highly, highly beneficial. So I'm going to pass it over to, I want to jump ahead here. I think Jen was going to go next and sort of talking about a little bit more about the stress and the cortisol axis.
Thanks very much, Joanne. Yeah, so my name is Jen Thomas, and I've been a personal trainer and bootcamp owner for 15 years. And one of the greatest things my clients come to me about, and most of them are either perimenopausal, menopausal, or they've gone through the whole system, is that stubborn weight loss, particularly weight around the middle. And I think an element of this 14-day reset is weight loss for a lot of people. So what they don't understand is that exercise has a very close connection to some of those hormones that that Joanne was just talking about. The number one being cortisol, but it also helps mitigate some of because it's really quite a neurochemical process when you exercise. It actually reduces the body's stress hormones like adrenaline and cortisol. And a healthy cortisol level, I'm actually going to bring this up to show you, because it is a natural process. So in the morning, okay, I can't share while you're sharing, actually, Joanne. Okay, here we go. Find it. So what it's naturally supposed to look like is this. So cortisol is your stress hormone, and it's meant to follow a certain curve. So in the morning, it's supposed to start up nice, see that nice blue line? So a little higher in the morning to get you up, to get you going throughout your day. And as the day progresses, it gently lowers to then until you get to the evening when it's much lower, and it allows you to actually have that calm, restful sleep. But with the stress that we tend to have in our everyday life, whether it's oxidative, whether it's physical stress, we've inverted that whole thing. And now most of us, unfortunately, with that fight or flight, we're actually looking like the red curve, which some of you are probably experiencing, difficulty getting to sleep and staying asleep. Well, your cortisol levels are likely too high. And that's one of the things I do ask my clients, how is your stress level? Because that's such a key piece in terms of, because one of the things cortisol does is it tends to create that weight loss, that fat development, the adipose tissue around the belly. And another thing I wanted to just quickly take a look at here for you is that stress. Again, I'm going to share one more screen here. And if I can find it. It's the stress wheel. And essentially, if you look at your stress wheel, half of your wheel is going to be exercise, because there's a huge correlation between lowering your stress levels and increasing your exercise. It actually produces those endorphins, those feel-good hormones. And it actually only 10 minutes of aerobic exercise can activate those endorphins, which is such a great thing to know. I mean, get up and dance, do something for 10 minutes, get out in nature. But it's what we're trying to do is that inverted cortisol. We're trying to stabilize that. And that's something that I would like to throw over to Lori, because she's lived this. And she's got some really great strategies in terms of how you can sort of flip that back on its head and have those cortisol levels start high and end low during the day. So Lori, I'd like to take it away.
Absolutely. So my name is Lori Clark, and I have been involved in kinesiology, health sciences, the study of the body, mind, body, soul, and holistic nutrition for, well, my entire adult life, really. And having been the past president of the Overachieving, Overfunctioning Club, I headed into burnout, adrenal fatigue. Well, twice, third time got the memo. So sometimes it takes a while to get the memo. And a lot of times it's simply lack of awareness and lack of knowledge. And the power of that is part of why we're having this conversation, because nobody teaches this and nobody really talks about this when you sign on for a diet or you sign up at a gym. It's rare that you get somebody like Jen who's gonna give you a fitness and exercise program, but also design it so that it does manage your cortisol levels. And there are simple, easy, mostly free strategies that help you reverse the cortisol cycle. And in this current time, here we are today, it's April 30th. So for many people, we're in a global staycation, round about a month and a half in. So prior to a month and a half ago, the majority, 79 to 81%, depending on which study you follow, globally, were living in what is identified as functional burnout, which means that the adrenals are stressed all the time. And back when we were cave people, if there was a bear in front of us or there was a lion about to eat us, it was really handy for our hormones, our adrenal hormones, to blast adrenaline out into the body, shut down digestion, shut down all the functions that weren't necessary, and direct everything out to the muscles so that we could rip away and run away, or that fight, flight, freeze response. We knew, depending on whether we needed to go hide and be invisible or whether we needed to run away or engage. It was fantastic. And animals out in the wild still have this. The way that works functionally is that you engage, the adrenaline goes blast, and within an hour or less, it dissipates and the body returns to normal homeostasis. Well, problem in today's society is that you got crappy coworkers or a nasty boss, or you've got a relationship at home, especially now in this staycation, that is tension, or within your own self, you're dealing with your own necessity to change, and it's creating stress. So the adaptation to your changing environment right now has added stress to the stress. So while you may not have the stress and tension of your boss screaming at you at work or rush hour traffic, you've got a whole other level of stress. And when that happens, the body can only sustain that level of adrenal stress for a certain amount of time, and then it starts to break down. So there's a couple of things that Joanne's going to put up the first slide right now, of ways that you can manage your current situation. So first of all, it's becoming aware of where you're not feeling safe, where you're not feeling balanced, where you're not feeling good. You write that down. And then if you look here, sleep is something I took for granted. And that's probably one of the big reasons why I slid down that slippery slope towards what is called functional adrenal burnout, because I made up a story in my head and the body will do whatever you tell it to. So it got on board. If I got an hour of sleep, 2 hours, maybe 4 at the most. I did that for 2 decades, where I was running on usually 4 hours of sleep at most. And then on the weekend, I'd maybe get 1 6-hour sleep. And I said to my body, it's going to be enough. You'll have 1 sleep cycle. For me, 4 hours. Great, no problem. Well, yeah, great, no problem, sort of. Because internally, the hit happens and it doesn't show up until later. So sleep is your best friend in managing and resetting that cortisol cycle. And prior to sleep, getting off of all devices, getting off of Netflix, TV, laptop, video games, telephone, cell phone, everything. Shut off all stimulation externally so that you can allow your body to prepare itself for that restorative sleep. And then you can actually be in a place where, when Jen was showing you the cortisol cycle, you want to move towards not going to bed fried, frazzled, and just like freak out mode. Of course you can't go to sleep. Your body's still elevated. It needs to settle itself down, and that takes time. As miraculous as our bodies are, they are human and they do take time to restore themselves. So your sleep cycle is going to be 3.5, 4.5 hours. You need 2 minimum per night. These days, in this current staycation, many people are finding they need 2.5 or 3 sleep cycles because of the added energy of stress that's just in the air that we're picking up everywhere. Honor it. Don't question it. Don't feel any judgment or anything in your body about it. Just listen to your body. If you need to sleep 10 hours, sleep 10 hours. No questions asked. Right now, that will save your organs. Your relaxation techniques are breath work. In through the nose, out through the mouth. It's all you do. If you sit, and I've had many people say to me, I can't sit still for 5 minutes. Are you mad? Like, what? How do you do that? Go on YouTube, 5-minute breathing technique. Somebody will tell you for 5 minutes, breathe in, breathe out. And the squirrels that are partying around in your head, you just let them. You know, the to-do list that goes in your head, you just follow that external voice. Breathe in, breathe out. Your autonomic nervous system will respond even if your conscious brain is in squirrel mode. So go there and do it. 5 minutes, even if it is at the start, 5 seconds, it is better than nothing. The other technique you can use is breathe in through one nostril, breathe out through the other. A little harder, but that's the other technique. But it works, and it takes seconds, and it's free. You can do it any time of the day. Jen already covered the exercise component, and as she identified, 10 minutes, get up and dance. And that ties in with number 7. I put the dance music on, I do the dancing, and I guarantee that with my dogs there, people think I'm crazy, but my family already has accepted that, and I laugh. Laughter automatically, it's one of the quickest ways to pattern interrupt your stress response. It will just tank it right away. So go there, do that, and find a way to fill your body with laughter. And the easiest way to resonate with this is look at your children. If you have a blessing of having had young children, you were, by the way, once a young child, children laugh freely and often and full-bodied. There's a reason. It literally shakes off the stress. So practice the technique of laughter. We are way too serious as adults. We really need to lighten up. Really, really, really. So laughter is huge. With adaptogens, anti-inflammatory nutrition, I'm not going to talk on essential oils right now, but if Joanne can flip to the next slide, adaptogens do what they say. They help the body adapt to the stress of the moment. And Isagenix offers one of the most profound solutions for stress management in the form of what we call liquid gold, Ionix Supreme. And John Anderson, in his brilliance, sourced the most powerful, effective, adaptogenic herbs and botanicals from around the world. And on the screen, you can see a few of them: rhodiola, wolfberry, ashwagandha, schizandra, eleuthero root, and bacopa, just to name a few. Individually, those are great. When you combine them in the right scientific formulation, the efficacy is unparalleled. And that's one of the things, like, this is about $1 a day. And I know I used to buy these ingredients separately. Well, number one, I couldn't confirm the consistent efficacy of each one, but I also didn't know the dosages and blending them in, and it was about $200. Whereas for $1 a day, I can have the same thing in a much more powerful formulation that's easy to sip. You can add it to water, you can throw it in a shot glass, you can have an ounce as often as you need. And the other thing that's with this is so many B vitamins that your body needs. And when you are under stress, your body will burn through its B vitamin stores fast. Like, you can burn through all your stores in an hour if you're under stress. How many people these days do I hear saying, I have to go to the doctor and get my B12 vitamin shot? This is a better solution because it is allowing the body at its organ level to restore itself. And it does support the liver, which Joanne was talking about as well, which is a key component for ensuring that all the hormones work at their optimum levels. So everything is restorable. That's the beauty of the human body, but we do need to give it the tools that it's missing. And minerals and adaptogens, which are the components of the Ionix Supreme, go in at an organ level, at a cellular level, and basically do that minuscule repair work that has a profound impact in reversing the burnout or the cortisol, too high cortisol levels that so many people are struggling with, and that show up with fatigue, lack of focus, indigestion, mood swings, short-temperedness, feelings of anger, all the not being able to sleep at night and then waking up exhausted. Those are all symptoms that are your body talking to you saying, hello, we're not dealing with the stress anymore. You've loaded it too much and you haven't given us the recovery time. And so these are tools that allow the body to restore itself, to recover itself, so that you don't need to go think there's something wrong with you. You catch it before something wrong happens in terms of your allopathic medical labeling, and you allow the body to heal as it is able to on its own completely by offering it the tools that are missing. So those are just some easy, simple, mostly free tools. I'm adding one more thing on before I pass it back to Joanne. Our Cleanse for Life, because many of you are currently on a 2-week reset. One of the things that Cleanse for Life does, it contains adaptogens and it contains minerals. Not the same formulation as the Ionix Supreme, but one of the most powerful benefits that our Cleanse for Life offers when you do a deep cleanse day, whether it's a single or a double, is massive restoration in the body of HGH, human growth hormone. Now, as a menopausal woman, I'm similar age to Cheryl, to all of us. I'm going to be 58 this month, coming in May. For me, knowing that I can maintain my bone density and my lean muscle mass to carry this house I live in around through time and space with ease as I age, that is the main reason I actually use deep cleanse days. I use it for the HGH production. I love all the other benefits. I love how it restores my liver because I've had issues because of burnout with my liver. So it restores it, it bathes it. It's like a spa day for my liver. But the HGH production, as someone moving into, whether you're male or female, if you are in your late 30s and onwards, you want to be noticing that you are keeping your HGH levels optimal as the body ages. So you don't have to do what the stats say, where you're going to lose bone density or going to lose lean muscle with every decade. That's a story, and we have a solution. So with that, I'll pass it back over to Joanne to wrap it up.
Awesome. Thanks, Lori. Oh, I love your tip about the HGH. Just to clarify, that that is shown to increase after 24 hours of fasting and even higher after 48 hours of fasting. And that's an independent study that has nothing to do with our products. So just to be clear that those benefits are found through the fasting process. And of course, what we're adding in is the botanicals and the nutritional support to that process. So, you know, it's heightening it to that degree. But the HGH, yeah, it spikes naturally when we're fasting and not consuming any solid foods. So the other piece that I just wanted to wrap up with is such great information, of course, that we hopefully you find very useful, is just to also iterate the fact that, you know, in this time of what we're going through and you know, seeing how things are going to unfold in the next several weeks, this is the time to really be taking care of yourself. And when we say self-care, we're talking about a totally different thing, which is, you know, paying attention to your health, and it's not a selfish activity whatsoever. It's something that we all need to be doing. And hopefully in, you know, all of this time, we've been able to take a little bit of time to sort of regroup and come back to our center and take care of ourselves, because when we do that, our whole body is going to benefit. So we hope that that gave you some really helpful information about hormones. It was very brief and a really short overview, but just to be aware that it is something that we, and the other thing I really wanted to touch on for women, because we're probably having a lot of questions about, well, what about hormone replacement therapy, which is something seems to be very specific for women. Not a lot of men do that, except if in the Viagra department. My personal opinion on that is, again, look to the foundational work that you can do first, rather than looking for quick solutions. I mean, there are places for those kinds of things, just like medications. When you're in an acute situation and you really need some support, you know, maybe even mentally, emotionally, as well as physically, to just correct something that's totally out of whack. But I don't feel that that's where the long-term solutions are. It really is in the foundational things that Lori talked about, that Jen talked about, which is creating a new foundation through nutrition, through self-care habits, and through using the superfoods that we have available through the Isogenics products and programs that, as Lori said, it is synergistic. And that's one of the probably pinnacle things about those products and those systems that we certainly find supportive and don't necessarily find them anywhere else. So with that, we will wrap up today's talk, and we look forward to you seeing this in recorded time and sharing it. Please share the link if you found the information useful, and we'll be here again next week. Take care, everyone.